So Steve, tell us about how you booked Dumb and Dumber 2.
That was interesting. Rick Montgomery, the casting director, months before my audition, called me in to his office on a sort of a bogus commercial. It was a real commercial he was casting, but he didn't really want to see me for the commercial. He wanted to just get me in the room and ask me if I would be willing to come out and play with these guys that were making Dumb and Dumber 2, T-O. And I said, yeah, of course, I would love to do that. He said, okay, well, we got a couple of things to iron out. And at that time, Warner Brothers was still attached as the producing studio. And I didn't hear anything for a few weeks or a month. And then all of a sudden, big news in the trades was Warner Brothers dumps Dumb and Dumber 2. And there were a number of reasons that they used as their excuse why they didn't want to be attached to the project anymore. And I just thought at that point that it's dead. And, you know, story of my life. You know, I get this close to something amazing and it blows up. But then, pretty soon after that, Universal jumped in and snapped up the project in conjunction with Red Granite, which has picked up and distributed lots of smaller, interesting films that a lot of other bigger studios didn't really have any interest in. For example, The Wolf of Wall Street is one of those films. And so Red Granite and Universal became involved with Dumb and Dumber 2, and now we're back on again. And the audition was scheduled, and I was ready with the material, and I was excited about it, and I went in, and I was expecting, I knew that the directors were going to be there, Peter and Bobby Farrelly, but I was expecting sort of a normal audition scene, scenario, just a small room with a few people in it and a video camera, and we do our thing and I leave. Well, I walked into the room and it was a screening room in an office building and with theater style seating. And there were 25 or 30 people smattered throughout the seats, and these big floodlights shining down on me, and a video camera there, and Pete and Bobby Farrelly sitting in the front row. And it kind of threw me a little bit. It just wasn't the audition situation that I was used to. And so we chatted for a little while. I'm not a big audition chatter. I don't like to do that. I like to get on with the material and do my work and then leave the room quickly. But they wanted to chat. And they said, oh, Steve, we're so happy to have you here. We feel like we know you. We see you and everything. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, I'm thinking, oh, really? So I told them a little bit about myself. And where are you from? Oh, I'm from Denver, Colorado. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. Oh, really? You a fan of the Broncos? Oh, no, I don't want to talk about sports. I really don't. But we did, and we talked about the Broncos and how they were going to do this year. And I said, the Super Bowl all the way. I just had no idea that they were going to perform so poorly at the Super Bowl. But and then we started the audition, and I had the first line in the audition. So I said my line, and the guy reading with me came back with a line that wasn't on the page. And I looked down to make sure it wasn't on the page, and it wasn't there. And I said, are you sure you have the most recent revision of the script? And by that I mean you don't. So can you get that? Now my momentum is kind of thrown off, and we have to pause and wait while he goes to get the correct version, the updated version of the sides. And then he came back, and we proceeded, and there were some other technical problems that forced us to start over again, and the situation is just deteriorating rapidly. And finally, I completed the scene. Actually, we did 2 scenes. I completed the scene, and I said, thank you very much, guys. Have a great shoot, and thanks for having me in, and I left. I was fuming. I was fuming. Smoke could have been coming out of my ears. I was so mad, because I was the crash test dummy. All these things had gone wrong that I had no control over. I couldn't control any of these things. And I felt it was the worst audition of my life. And I was the crash test dummy for the other guys waiting outside who were going to go in, and those things wouldn't happen to them. because they would have all been corrected by the time they came into the room. And I knew that I did not have this job. I knew it. And then a couple of weeks later, didn't hear anything. Finally, the phone rings, and my agent told me that I am the director's first choice. Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I just couldn't believe it. And she said, don't get too anxious, don't get too excited, because there's still some hoops we have to jump through. You have to be approved by the producers, and then at another level by the studio. And once we get over those hurdles, then we can start to breathe a little bit. But you're Pete and Bobby Farrelly's first choice. And I thought, well, go figure. And there's an old saying, and I keep on trying to remind myself of this every day, and sometimes I forget, like in this instance. The saying is, you cannot feel your own handshake, meaning that basically you just are, I am in no way capable of evaluating how other people see me. I just can't do it. Would that we could see ourselves as others see us. And while we were shooting, we had a setup break, and I asked Pete Farrelly, why was I cast in this thing? I thought it was the worst audition of my life. He said, you were the first guy into the room, and it's very, very rare that we ever cast the first guy that comes into the room. He didn't remember when he had ever done that. But the reason he cast me was because there was one line that I was supposed to be delivering to my adopted daughter that I delivered in a very sweet, patient, loving way, and everybody else who came into the room was annoyed with her and angry with her. And that's not what they wanted. They wanted to see that relationship of total unconditional love and acceptance under any circumstance. And that's the choice that I made, and that's what got me the role.